Hi everybody, I'm Joey Paul and I'm an indie author, and welcome back to my channel. I write young adult fiction across a variety of genres, and if you think that might interest you, then think about subscribing below. So today we're going to be talking about drafting. When I turned 40 last year, I worked out that I would pen the first draft of my 40th book in the same year. That led me to thinking about how many books I'll have published and drafted by the time I'm 50, which blew my mind because at the speed I write there should be about another 40 books drafted in those 10 years, which will bring me up to 80 books. Next, I tried to work out how many books I would have published if I kept to the usual 2 books a year, and that would bring me originally up to 40 books published. And again, it blew my mind and made me think over a few things. One being that publishing for me has slowed down, my developmental editor has other commitments, my health hasn't been great, and it takes a lot of time and energy to revise a book and then go through the professional edit. I've always been someone, shall we say, with fragile health, and the last thing I want to do is have all these books and some of them never see the light of day again. I hate the thought of leaving things unfinished, but I also don't really see how I have a choice. So then I started to think about some of the upcoming revision projects and how at least one book needs to be cut down so much word count wise that it'll probably be better for me to rewrite it. I can usually juggle my 2 drafting books as well as a revision one, as well as sometimes an editing one, but I can't do more than that without risking my health. So that's when I came up with this idea. What if I took a year or 2 and started to revise a bunch of projects instead of writing more? I've been thinking over since last January, and to be honest, I still don't know how or if it'll work, because here's what I'm thinking. Standalones are easier to revise. I say this because for me, a lot of the time, the revision that happens after the first book is mostly implementing the changes because of that professional edit. I could spend time revising a whole series, but I really don't know if that will end up being a waste of my time, since things can and have changed so much when it comes to the professional edit. So I have a handful, maybe more, of standalones that are there in the queue, and I can pull them up, make my outline, cut them down, and spend days and weeks and months making sure that they're in optimal shape. This means that I can be even more sure that things are working when I go back to them before the professional edit. Remember what I said about that one project, at least, that I know has to be cut in half and mostly rewritten? It's projects like that, because it's a standalone, that I would focus the majority of my time and energy on. It would mean that I could dedicate months and weeks to doing that without having to worry about keeping up with other things. It would also mean that I could have the original in one window, a proper outline beyond my usual capabilities, and just retype everything, making the changes that are necessary. I also know a couple of other projects that might need that same level of care, and taking time away from drafting would allow me to get all that done. Standalones are easy because they don't tie into anything else, so if I was going to do this, I would start with them. Series aren't impossible. I know that I've said that I don't want to make series-wide changes before the professional edit, and that's still the case, but I can revise and such the first book of each series since I know the full story. It would mean, again, that if needed, I could focus on retyping everything with a more detailed and extensive outline so that everything flowed better for me. It would make my editor's life so much easier, and it would give me all the time I needed to go through it time and time again, employ beaters and sensitivity readers and the like, and really hone in on the story, the themes, the plot and arc and all of that, which I do anyway, but time is always an issue, and this would allow me more of that time. If there were series-wide changes that I picked up on, it would also allow me to keep those in mind when it came to preparing things for edits. So those are my thoughts. I don't know how much I could get done in a year or 2, but it seems silly to keep pumping out drafts when right now my publishing schedule has slowed down immensely. I would be able to spend time just drinking up those stories and not having it in the back of my head that I need to delay a release because revisions are eating up my time. If I were to take this time off, which I still haven't decided, I'd want to do it in a period when I was no longer working on a series, because I don't want to leave this huge gap between writing one and then another. So that obviously will impact when I do this and how I do it. But it is something to very much consider because I know my workload and I know what I can manage, and I don't want to have 80 books behind me with the chances that the majority of them will never be seen by my readers. And that just feels like a nightmare to me, and I don't want to get to that point. So as I said, I've been thinking about this over and over and over again since last January, and I haven't really come to a decision yet. I'm at the point now where I'm in the middle of a series and I will be starting a new series next time I start new projects. So I probably think that I will do it at the end of those, which won't be for a couple of years, but it will be a chance to really think about what I'm doing and get further along in the editing cycle with other projects that are taking up a lot of my time, and just really think about this. But it's something that I want to consider because, like I said, I don't want to get to 50 and have 40 books published or less than that because I've slowed down, and 80 books and 40 of them in my backlog, because that just terrifies me. So yeah, what do you think about this kind of thing? Do you like to take time off drafting and just focus on revisions? If you do, let me know in the comments down below. So that's all I got time for today. If you want to support my channel, you can comment, like, or subscribe. I post new videos on Thursdays. You can find me all over social media, and my books are available everywhere, and you can also sign up for my newsletter. And don't forget to pick up Cramming Chronicles: The Second Pang, which is the second in a young adult urban fantasy series. And also don't forget to grab a ticket for The City in Birmingham in July, where I'll be signing books. All the links to which are listed below. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep writing. Bye.